Reclaiming Timeless Ways, episode 102. Can't count that high, but I can say it. Mike Traster, Simon Fuller, glad to have you. And Mike, the golden topic of today's episode, today's show is
involuntary. I'm putting in brackets involuntary grace with self.
involuntary.
It's
even.
necessary, right? But pride gets in the way of grace with self.
Sure.
So what if I can't do something that I think I should be able to do? That happened to me like in the last couple of weeks. I usually bench press around 205, 210 pounds, and my reps are on a very quiet, low day about 20, and on a more energetic day 40 or 50, and without stop. And I couldn't lift it, not once. And I'm like, what? What the? What is going on here? And I was useless, so I dropped it down 15 pounds, and I think I might have got 8 or 9 reps instead of like 70.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and so that's been going on for a couple of weeks. And so I said to myself, this is terrible. This is awful.
Yeah.
And then you start exaggerating that you picture, well, I'm falling apart. I'm going to wind up in the morgue in 3 days or whatever, instead of, I don't know why this is happening. And so after about a week or two of that continuing, and then one day I was back up to 40 and down to 10, and it's like, I don't understand this, which is fine. You don't have to understand it.
Right.
So what I did was I put the weight at 40 pounds. And I did 2 reps. Then I did 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. Then I went to 115, 2 reps, 130, 2 reps, 145, up to 190, I think. So I did a lot of reps.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't bother with the 205, and I called it good.
Yeah.
So the next time I go to the gym, which should be tomorrow, I'm going to start with 3 reps and 4. And so I'll circle back around another way. Yeah. But I have to be patient with myself, right? Well, like I wrote a book and the hard drive fried. And I was told it's gone. We can't extract what's in there.
That was before clouds, right? Before you had it saved in a cloud somewhere.
Right. Which I've never done, right?
Right.
So then I put some of it in emails and emailed it to myself. So that's safe, right? As long as I have that account.
Right.
And that's remained intact, but that's only maybe 30, 40 pages, not 400 or 500. And then another hard drive fried. And then I was sitting in my house one day 5 or 6 years ago on the computer typing. There's a rainstorm outside, and in the alley across the street from me, there's a steel pipe.
I see where this is going.
Right, for the gas line. Lightning hits the pipe.
Yeah.
Where does the pipe wind up? Right outside my living room window. So the pipe, the spark arcs from the pipe to my electrical system, and my computer goes click. And it hit me.
It had a big one, a coronary.
So I'm like, what was that? It felt funny, because I got a little jolt out of it. Well, I don't know how many pages. I'm going to guess hundreds. I don't remember how many. And I thank God I had this disastrous pile of disorganized handwritten pages in a steel box. The normal file boxes, about a foot square. They got a little clicker lock on them. So I put everything in there because it was safe, right? And then I stuck it in the front room, which is an enclosed deck unheated. Well, it's unheated, so the steel in the box absorbed moisture from the air, and everything in the box got completely saturated with mold and destroyed. 700 pages. Right, so it's 14 years of work.
After this episode, Mike, I'm going to teach you about the cloud, by the way, because
Okay.
if you ever give this another go, we're not going to let you,
Thank you.
unless the cloud servers all go down.
Okay.
And
Okay.
if you somehow succeed in bringing all those down,
Yeah,
you truly weren't meant to write the book.
I may not be. So my joke is that my muse went and got plastic surgery, changed their name, and left with no forwarding address. They are done with me. And so in my head, the question is now, is this book dead, or do I just leave it on hold and let it wake up on its own? And the only trick I've found that sometimes helps me write 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 pages is I'll read something on my subject, which was King Arthur, right? And then I might get inspired to write a little bit, but then the muse is still gone, and that flow that I once had went with it.
Yeah.
And so then what do you do? What do you do when you can't bench press what you can bench press easily? What do you do when your writing style changes, or when you blow out a lumbar disc, or if somebody has a stroke?
Yeah. I have a friend, here within the company who, died twice, a total of 22 minutes over two different deaths is back.
Yeah.
It was a hard issue, but obviously that lack of oxygen took a toll, and he's recovered incredibly, but still isn't to where he was before. And you can sense frustrations at time and moments, and you've even given him some pointers. I also have a couple friends who were, somebody that they really trusted betrayed them. And, like oftentimes we put that back on ourselves. Well, he can't
did.
help that he died and where he's at. He's thankful for where he's at, but he's also at times
You miss
frustrated.
what you had.
Correct. And or when you put trust in somebody and they betray you, do you take on some of that as well? You do. So there's just stories out there. I'm sure people watching have all in one way, shape, or form can think of a moment in their life. And that was going to be my next question, where I think you're going is, okay, what do you do with that? How do you let that most traumatic things or big things in your life you can't forget, but how do you step aside and get to that place where you give yourself that grace, Mike? Because I don't think, dating back to our last episode, there's another attribute you have to give yourself grace to have some joy and happiness. There are other pieces in our last episode about faith and hope, but if you're sitting there stuck in a moment that you just can't get out of,
Right.
you can't enjoy.
Yeah, you take
can't
that moment or that year or that decade. Let's say you're in a horrendous relationship or marriage or business partnership, any of those, or a friendship where there's betrayals.
How do you get that back? How do you get back to whole?
Right. How do you reestablish some sense that even if I'm not going to be busy, like I don't date, I just don't. I stopped.
Yeah.
Right. Now, have I defined myself as I will never date again? No, I haven't. Have I defined myself as it's a lot less likely than it used to be? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why? Well, feminism. Because what does feminism do? It makes men into devils,
Yeah.
and we're useful commodities to be used up and discarded and replaced. So when you see that, you're like, well, realistically, if you listen to the narrative, which we were talking about before, the group narrative of feminized women, which is most women, even conservative women in Christian churches are feminized because these phrases, their group attitudes, their narratives have become universalized. So there's a war, right? So you ask yourself a question. These things that are being said that shame you for having a male nature, which God put in you, Is that something that you want your son to absorb?
Sure.
Right? And if it isn't, then you have to teach your son to be very wary of women or girls that are thusly indoctrinated because they're venomous. And it's like, whoa, you can't say that. Yes, you can. Why can you say that? It's outrageous. Oh, because it's true. Oh, oh, this is terrible. You're a bad person. I think we're going to cancel you. Okay. But you realize what canceling is. It's defamation, which is part of the strategy of feminism. Defamation means stealing somebody's ability to have relationships and an identity and a business, right? To have a peaceful, constructive life. So how does that make one that delivers those messages, those toxic injections, not a fraud, not a criminal, right? So it's like, well, if men acted the way that women act when they're feminized, would we be acting in a moral way? Absolutely, we would not. It would be intolerable.
Well, and there are plenty of men that do. There are,
That's
on
true.
the other side,
Right. Right.
that abuse the strength and abilities. I look at that and I say,
Right.
and not even just male, female. I think of the same examples you're bringing up in the groups, the clusters, the social statuses, it's basically feminism, and that it's using the power of whatever you have or certain fields of work or whatever it is. It's basically abusing that
Right.
with which you have.
How you use it, like my several extraordinary karate instructors. One was a gentleman named Yamakura, who's the highest ranked Goju practitioner in the Western world.
Wow.
He's retired. I think he might occasionally teach black. He's like a 9th or 10th degree black belt. Legitimate,
Wow.
not paid his dues and got a belt, right? And went to McDonald's. He did it the hard way. Never saw him bully anyone.
Yeah.
Never saw him intimidate
Right.
anyone.
And he had the ability to.
Oh.
That's, yeah.
I remember in class one day, we were like 25, 30 feet behind where he was standing, and somebody whispered, there was like 15 of us, you think we could all kick Moto's ass together? And Moto just goes like this. And we were like, it's the death angel incarnate,
right.
He could hear us,
Yeah.
And the obvious answer to that guy's name was Mike, big husky guy. And the obvious answer was, no, we would all die. A lot. And immediately. And but he was an absolute gentleman, And people who use their power to be bullies.
Yeah.
And it could be the power of physical strength or a person that's very handsome, very charismatic, very beautiful,
Right.
very high IQ, has a lot of money.
Correct. All those bubbles. And kind of, it's like, again, I hate to do the cliche thing. I don't know if it'd be a cliche, but it's more of the superhero.
Right.
With great power comes
Responsibility.
That's right. And that is true, though. That is actually true at all of those settings. It is our duty, and you said in the last show, do that which is right.
Uh-huh.
In all scenarios, Mike, and I know we're getting a little off topic to reel it back in, but
Right.
those are all things that I think people that are watching say, yeah, I've experienced, maybe I've been the culprit. I've been a bad guy before and I didn't like it. It's not a
Right.
problem, but I've also been on the receiving end of something
Right.
that I didn't like. I guess that's part of learning. So what do you do with that? But also when you were talking about grace with oneself, it's kind of, that's the next step is how do you get to that point? So you've experienced one of these stories we've talked about. Now the next step is, okay, can't let that define me. I can't let that hang on to me
Right.
and keep me where I'm at. So you used in your workout example. All right, I'm going to backdoor it. Well, what about some of these other stories? I mean, what are your kind of, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 steps? If we
Right.
could give the audience a,
Well, my car wreck,
yeah.
19, I think it was June of 1990. So it's 35 years ago. I was sitting in my Mark IV Lincoln, and I had just finished.
How'd you ever get injured in that? Those things were, I thought those things were beasts, weren't
Exactly. Huge. So
they? The boats.
this drunk, well, I didn't know, the chronic, severe drunk was also a car thief. And he would sit in his brother's repair shop and steal cars. He would borrow them and go on joyrides. So I'm parked at a red light, and he takes this woman's Audi with no one's permission because he is absolutely shit-faced, beyond description. And and he takes this four-door Audi, which is a very heavy, solid car, probably 2 tons, and it slams into me going about 35 to 40 miles an hour while I'm stopped. My frame in my Lincoln was twisted.
Wow.
They said they couldn't believe the damage to the frame considering how heavy of a car it was.
Those cars were built.
Extraordinary. 5,200-pound car.
Right.
Yeah. And so I heard the sound, and I remember I was looking over across from me. There's a very beautiful blonde gal in this Ford. It was like a bronze brown Ford Torino. I knew her. No, not well. Her kid went to my kid's daycare. Anyway, I was looking at her and admiring how beautiful she was. Stunning. And all of a sudden I hear this crash and this twisting and turning of steel. And I thought, my God, somebody was terribly hurt. By the time I perceived that there was a sound, my brain was damaged. And I had no idea that it was me, right? Now, how can I speak about this openly to strangers? Because maybe it will save your life or the life of your husband, your wife, your mother, your father, your kid, right? Your neighbor. So I wound up like leaning forward and I guess unconscious briefly. And when I came to, the steering wheel in this massive car was mangled in my hands. So my mass moving forward into my hands and arms destroyed the steering wheel. So it was like, it looked like an angry gorilla pitched the shit fit with the steering wheel, you know? And people are banging on the window of my car and they're speaking to me, but they're speaking a foreign language. And I'm thinking, they must be from Eastern Europe. This is very weird, but they're like, everything is going very slowly. And I'm noticing everything is gray. And I was what, 3.5 years out of nursing school. And my last 80 hours of clinical training was in a place called the Greenery, which was a brain injury hospital in Seattle. And I think it was next door to Providence, up on Pill Hill. And I'm thinking to myself, I think I have just gotten a brain injury. I'm thinking slow, right? Now, they're starting to make sense to me. So somewhat of the blood flow that was damaged was temporary, right? But also, when your brain and your skull get into a fight, the skull always wins and the brain always loses. And depending on, how hard you got hit, I got hit like a George Foreman punch,
Yeah.
So I sustained many areas of cognitive damage. The ones that still persist are I'm always very sleepy.
Yeah.
And I don't think my reaction times are quite as quick as they once were. They were extraordinary. Now they're probably maybe average or a little better. My name face memory is terrible.
Yeah.
So I had to learn grace. And it was a little at a time, and I remember the horror of it. My little boy, who was just 2 when it happened, because he was born in '88 and it happened in '90. I would forget his name, and it was horrible. And I disliked myself when it happened. And I said to myself, I'm just not going to reveal that this is happening to him. I will just be quiet. And then I will reassemble his name in my memory. And if it takes me once or 10 times or 1,000 times, I will do it until I remember his name every time, easily, because I don't want to hurt him, right? So I had to sort of have a bit of a plan. And so it was little tiny bits. It was like building a skyscraper out of Legos,
Yeah.
right? So because you're reconstructing yourself, and you're like a broken windshield. There's thousands of pieces all over the place. Now everything didn't break,
Right.
but plenty was significantly damaged.
Yeah.
So there's like a mild concussion, and then there's traumatic brain injuries, and they go from very mild to moderate to severe. So mine was in the mild to moderate range, which is very significant. And I don't. At the time, they said to me, "You have a 6 month window of recovery." And then somebody said, "No, that's not true. You have an 18-month window of recovery." So one of the things that was working for me is I didn't believe any of them.
Yeah.
I said, "Bullshit. Fuck you. I don't have a 6 month window, and I don't have an 18. I have a forever window of
Right.
recovery. It will never stop improving because I'm going to work at it in little ways."
Right.
So I found some little classroom where I could sit and play math games.
Yeah.
So I reestablished my fundamental math skills. The fancy word for that is numeracy, right? And so that part got put back together. I think some of my spatial cognition got significantly improved, but my mechanical aptitude was diminished to this day. Like I had taken some cognitive tests at one point for work in certain mechanical fields, and they said that I blew the doors off the test, and nobody had ever scored that high. So I was very blessed, right? So um, I was given a lot of giftedness, and then all of a sudden, by a drunk sack of shit, it was stolen from me.
Yeah.
Right. So what I wanted to do was find him and tear his throat out. So I made an agreement with myself. I know where he is. I will never drive past that place. That way I'm not going to have that impulse. Right. And let's just put it this way as a metaphor. A hungry wolf is going to come into your house and steal your steak. So you stay away from the house.
Right.
Right. You don't entertain that.
Right.
The dark, because we all have a dark part of ourselves.
Sure.
If there's a shrink or a doc or a cop that's listening and says, "Oh, that's terrible. I'm not like that," you're a liar. We're all like that.
Yeah.
We all have it, so you don't feed it, you don't entertain it. So it's like, who was the French artist? I'll think of his name, but maybe not immediately. Who made gorgeous paintings out of dots. It's called pointillism. It made this beautiful, surreal, just slightly surreal, impressionistic, actually, was the Seurat, Seurat. So, one of the things that you wind up doing is you circle around an idea to find it, right? And circling around an idea, there's a specific word that's a $50 word. That way they can rip you off, right? So the word that they use is called circumlocution, right? So if you're circumlocuting, means you find things that are relevant or related to it, and you're spiraling in. But if somebody said, "Well, you're finding associated words," well, that's a 50-cent word. They don't want to charge you 50 cents, so they tell you, "Oh, you're circumlocuting." Then, bing, you just get hit with a Mack truck of a bill. what's the difference between circumlocuting and finding things that are related? The bill, right? So a lot of con artists there. And what I found out, this is all survival. This is for those of you that have been hurt one way or another, is you avoid the con artists, especially the ones that are smooth and they tell you how much they care, you know. So one tiny little, so now more so in the last 6 months, I think, I'm more tired. I'm also older. I'm 35 years older than when I got hurt.
Yeah.
So is age a factor in that? Yeah, I would say. You know, is it a huge factor? No, but it's a factor.
Yeah.
But in some ways, my mobility is better. You know, I was lucky in that I was extremely physically strong. I could strap myself into a chair in the gym and press down 400 pounds.
Yeah.
Then, now, maybe half of that.
Yeah.
You know, so things happen bit by bit. You know, so if you had a bucket under an air conditioner, and the air conditioner was making water cold in the condenser, right? But you don't want the water all over the floor, so you put a bucket under it. So once every minute, it leaves a drop. Well, if you leave that thing running for 2 or 3 days, that bucket's full.
Yeah.
Right. So that's how everything fixes. When you have a big, let's say I got a big cut, which I hope I don't get, from there to there, half an inch deep, right? The instant that I get that cut, it's beginning to heal, right? It's clotting, and the cells are beginning to reform. You don't see it; it's microscopic,
Yeah.
but it's real. You know, so it could be cognitive, it could be strength, it could be endurance, it could be immunity, could be heart damage, could be a stroke, could be any number of things, could be a severe disappointment where you've been the most trusted person in your life betrays you. Now, how do you rebuild? So the initial reaction is to become the bear and flee into the back of the cave and say, I will never trust anyone again. But you don't stay there. You start coming out. You smell something that smells interesting. Hamburger down the road you want, or whatever it happens to be. And so one of the things that you do is you develop a little bit of a sense of humor.
Sure.
Right? And those little dots, like the painting, Seurat's painting, the pointillist painting, 10,000 or 100,000 dots or 1,000,000 dots might make a painting. And you say, well, that's too many. You say, well, wait a minute. If I put 100 dots on the page, that's 100 I don't have to do. It's done. Right? So are you counting the impossible number, or are you looking at something smaller and saying, I'm not doing 100,000 dots. Right now, I'm doing one. I'm going to do 100 ones. I can do that.
Right.
Not only can I do that, that's what I call stupid simple. It's so simple, it would be ridiculous to not do it. But if I do 100 dots a day for 100 days, how many dots is that?
Right. All of a sudden, you've gotten somewhere.
Right. That's 10,000, right? So you're like, 10,000 from one. Right.
Yeah.
That's how you remake yourself when you break mentally, physically,
Yeah.
spiritually. Right?
One dot at a time.
One bloody dot at a time. And it works. It's true. You know? Was a word that we used to use when a person had a big wound, like a bed sore. And so it was just laying open, it was raw and kind of nasty looking. So they say that it forms, the formation is called granulation, like little granules, like dots, literally like dots. And so these little dots, they fill up the canvas of what? Of your arm. or your shoulder or your knee, whatever it was that broke. And those dots fill in, and then they become denser and they mature, and then they create new flesh, new skin. And at one point, they go from being horribly gone to restored, right? So the reason why I'm using that as an example is because that happens every day,
Yeah.
right?
We've all had a wound of some sort,
Oh, hell
a
yeah.
physical wound.
Right. A bone that breaks. Ooh, that's nasty. You're actually better off having a broken bone than a torn ligament. The bone heals better. But the ligament, if it's approximated or only partly torn, or if it's sewn back together, it will heal.
Yeah.
But will it be perfect? No. No, but what do you want to do? Are you going to focus on what you don't have or on your little dots that are adding, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so, so we've seen people around here suffering, you know. So one of the things is you encourage people,
Yeah.
you know, and you use yourself. There's a sales tool, and you know it better than I do, I think. It's called Feel, Felt, Found.
Feel, felt, found.
Yeah.
Not even familiar with it.
Oh, you know it. You just know it by different words.
Okay.
Okay, I understand. I think I understand what you are feeling.
Yeah.
I have felt something very similar to that.
Right.
Here's what I found helps,
Sure.
right? See?
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah.
You
Correct.
just didn't have the same terminology.
Right.
So what's the terminology? Nothing. It's just random words,
Right.
right? So what are your words for
And,
that?
and honestly, it's just, I would summarize that by genuinely caring, is how I would summarize.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's really the summary of what you would go through in a relationship.
Yeah. So question, if you don't honestly care, how much can you honestly encourage someone? How much?
None.
None. Bingo.
Yeah.
That was very rude of you. What did he do? He committed the ultimate sin. In churchianity, he told the truth.
Yeah.
Oh, this is bad. You're a bad dog.
Shame on
Go
me.
in the corner. My corner is over there, by the way.
I keep waiting for someone to ground me and send me to bed early.
I have to ground myself every single
Yeah.
day, all day. So yeah, you have to actually, if you don't care, what was his name? M. Scott Peck. He was a doc, was a psychiatrist, and I think he wrote a book called The Road Not Taken or The Road Less Taken. It was about ethics and caring in medicine. He wrote several books, interesting books. But somebody asked him, he was making this big presentation once, and they said to him, "You're a psychiatrist. So you went through 4 years of pre-med. You were probably an excellent science student in high school, which most people aren't, you know, myself included. I think probably 2 or 3 of my teachers died from fits from thinking about me in their class, making fun of what they taught. And so you go through that, and then you get accepted to college, and you get some kind of a degree in science, and then you compete with hundreds or thousands of other people. You get into nursing school or med school, depending on how you do your steps, and then you do that, and then you do more work, right? Step by step, you know, step by step. So they asked them, "You've got all this training, but what's the thing?" And then you got specialization in psychiatry, right? Which is like about 30% neurology, right? And so what's the one thing? What would you say would be the most important thing to counsel? You know what he said?
Yeah.
To care.
I believe that.
And they're like, "Yeah, but what else?" I said, "That's it."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Yeah, but that's not enough." As he goes, "Yeah, that's enough."
Yeah.
And they're arguing with him. It has to be magic. It has to be unapproachable. No, it's not. Caring is a profound thing because it makes you pay attention. You use all your senses and your intellect. You use your spirit. You use your instincts and you pay attention, you know. Those two words were probably more important than all the Jabberwocky of
We got somewhere.
my monologue. You exceeded my monologue with two words: to care. True. Very true. And if you don't care, I would say let them be.
Yeah.
Let somebody else have a go at them. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there are people who you honestly care about, but they don't like you.
Yeah.
They don't trust you.
Sure.
They diminish you and your experience or your ethics in some way, and so they go like that. No, you can't help them.
Right.
You can't. You want to, but you can't. You know, that's frustrating. So I guess that's that subject.
All right.
Yeah.
Very good. And we thank you for joining us for another edition of Reclaiming Timeless Ways. Have a great day.
So just like a cut, the moment you're cut, you begin to heal everything that happens.
One dot at a time.
One dot.
Have a great day.